Next up on the Cosmic News Network, First Contact with Joshua Pert.
Good morning, Earthlings. Good. How you doing today?
Good.
How you doing today? Welcome to First Contact Radio. Welcome to First Contact Radio. To talk about all these things I'm talking about is because in life, everything is energy. Every single thing that's out there.
Yo, it's First Contact with Joshua Poet. He's the man on the mic, just in case you didn't know it. Covering news from all around the globe, from the weather and space to UFOs. He'll talk politics and make you open your eyes. Conspiracy theories and government lies. He'll dig it all up and try to find the proof. Cause it's time to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio. We have
time to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio. We have
time to demand the truth. It's time.
First Contact Radio.
It's time to demand the truth.
Radio. We have arrived. First Contact. Good morning, Earthlings. How you doing? Welcome back to First Contact Radio, Friday edition. Made it to the end of the week, and we've made it to the end of springtime. We're getting ready to move into a new season. Today's the last day of spring. Tomorrow, first day of summer. Well, sort of, later in the day. So I'll explain that as we go along here. So today is the 20th of June. We have a couple of changes taking place. One of them is that our sun sign has been in Gemini up to this point in time. However, that is changing. We're going from Gemini to the next sign over, which is Cancer, and that is going to be beginning on this weekend, in addition to the change that is taking place with the moon sign, which is going to be moving over to Taurus. So a lot of changes taking place between the summer solstice and some of these major planetary bodies here. Alright, so here's what we're looking at. Currently, our moon sign is in Aries. So the moon is the unconscious mind, what we're thinking underneath, what's going on beneath the surface. And here we have Aries. Aries is about leadership. It's fire. It's new beginnings. It's the first sign of the zodiac. Everything is getting started. And Aries has the Emperor as its representation in the tarot. The Emperor is the one who puts things in order. So Aries is all about getting everything organized, getting everything in order. We're getting ready to go into a new season, so just kind of double check everything before you're ready to go, before that summertime begins. Because next sign when we go to with the Taurus, appreciating some of those pleasures of this new opportunity that's available. Okay, so let's make that final organization is what's going on right there. We have a square that's taking place between Aries and Pluto. And this square, this is a lesson. Squares are energy patterns, energy blocks that we need to learn from. And this one deals with Pluto's deep transformation. This one has to do with Aries, so our leadership abilities is going to challenge, we need to transform the way in which we lead, the way in which we take charge of what we're doing. Maybe get a little more focused on what we're doing. Find ways to do and move things ahead a little bit differently. So this is some real deep thought, introspection that goes on, some transformation that takes place within that areas of our conscious, unconscious thinking. So we're thinking about where we want the world to go. We see a lot of challenges in the world these days. So we want a new direction. So we're thinking about it. It's affecting us. We go later this evening, we have a opposition again with Aries and Mars, and these two signs, Aries and Mars, go together. Okay, here they're opposing each other. So they could bring good balance to each other, but they could also, be fighting with each other. And since they're two parts of the same thing, since Mars is the planet that rules over the astrological sign of Aries, it's like that inner personality opposing itself and kind of squaring off, maybe really looking at ourselves seriously about what we're doing in life. Maybe that's what's going on. We're going to take a good hard look at who we are, what we're doing. Are we happy with what we're at? What's our progress? And Mars can bring some real severity. If you go over here, look at the tree of life, we've got Mars. In here, it's in the pillar of severity. So when we look at the energies here, we know that there's some severity involved in what's taking place. Okay, we can apply the same principles of astrology here. We got Aries, which is the Emperor. The Emperor's learned things, has wisdom, but we've got this severity here that we really have to understand the lessons of it, not to be too severe. So then, okay, let's continue on, and then we have our moon sign. Aries is also conjunct, which means it's right next to this one here, which is Uranus. And Uranus is unexpected changes, surprises. Okay, so our leadership, that Mars energy, or the Aries energy, it has an opportunity after it goes through this change and really looking at itself to now maybe find something new about itself. Find something that is buried in the unconscious, because if we look at this here, this is all about things that are buried deep. And so perhaps what we have here is there's something buried deep, and as we take a good hard look at who we are and what we're about, a surprise rises to the surface and we discover more about who we are. Okay, so just some ideas of what come in mind. As we go into this weekend, we're moving our moon sign into Taurus. Our sun sign moves into Cancer. And then we have the summer solstice as well. So big changes taking place. We have the ephemeris here, just available if you want to look through it. Numerology for today is number 6. Number 6, here's how we arrive at the number 6. June 20th, 2 plus 0, the year 2014. Adds up to 15. 1 plus 5 equals 6. 6 is the tarot card of the Lovers. 6 is the position right here in the middle of the tree of life, in the sphere of beauty. Here's the path of the Lovers, going from understanding to the heart. Discrimination. Use discrimination so that when we understand things, we're not being too severe, too hard, too extreme with what we understand. We always want to be balanced. That's the whole idea of this symbol here, is looking for balance. Are we going to be 100% balanced all the time? No, because life is always moving. Always moving. So the idea is to keep moving through this pattern of life. We go from one extreme to the other, but then we learn to balance it out. But sometimes we need to go to one extreme. Sometimes we need to go to the other extreme. That's how we learn. We stretch ourselves. But if we understand that there's a pattern that goes on, how we move through the energy fields around us, it helps us. Okay, so there would be the numerology for today, the 6. This is also the Gemini, Aries right here. So that's some nice, good, positive energy moving us right down, We're moving in a good, balanced place. And then those opportunities that come about with the questioning today. Got the link here for the correspondence. Look at this, and I brought up this card here. This was the Lovers. This is about discrimination. Go through this. You got all the tarot right here. If you want to get a great understanding of them, just go through one at a time. Pick one every day. Matter of fact, maybe that's what we'll do. Let's start with one today. Let's go with the Fool. We'll start this on Monday. On Monday I'll do one a day. Alright, the current moon phase is 41% of the way full, making its way down to a new moon. You know that because it's waning Waxing means going up to full. Waning means going down. So this is a time of the year when the two brightest stars of summer, Arcturus and Vega, shine equally high overhead as evening grows late. Arcturus in the southwest, Vega towards the east. Arcturus and Vega are 37 and 25 light years away, respectively. They represent the two commonest types of naked eye stars, the yellow-orange K giant and a white A main sequence star. They're 150 to 50 times more luminous than the sun, and this, combined with their nearness, is why they dominate the evening sky. So Arcturus and Vega, the ones we're going to see. All right, southwest sky. All right, the Mayan Oracle, 12-tone day, wave spell of the wind. So we're going to be wrapping up this wave spell, this theme. All this is just a way of looking at time in which the Mayan system combined with a few calibrations. This is looking at time in another way. So we've got the theme wrapping up here as the Skywalker. The Skywalker is now getting ready to explore this inspiration that we've taken from this moment here, this 13-day period of time. The theme of the wind. So now we're going to go into the timelessness of that, and then the next one after that is the eagle. So the next wave spell, next theme that would be starting on Sunday, is going to be a wave spell or a theme of vision. Where are we going? Are we seeing? Do we have clear vision of where we're going? So right now this is about exploration, moving into timelessness, understanding timelessness. The phrase for today, which is a 12 or a crystal skywalker guided by the serpent, is: I dedicate in order to explore universalizing wakefulness. I seal the output of space with the crystal tone of cooperation. I am guided by the power of life force. Spaceweather.com, solar wind 434.8 kilometers per second. Planetary K-index is quiet at a 2. Coronal holes, nothing significant there. M-class flares are dropping. That chance is dropping down. X-class is back down to 5. And geomagnetic storm activity. So we're pretty quiet up there in the sky right now. Pretty quiet up there. The day on the Jewish calendar today is 22 Sivan. And the daily thought for that is: make your own sanctuary. Ultimately, the purpose of all things is not a rational one, but simply God's desire to dwell in an ordinary world, the one in which you and I live. Out of his desire comes not only this world, but all worlds and all things within them. Why does he so desire? The question is meaningless. Reason is a mere creation. God just is. There is nothing for him to gain or risk losing, for God lacks nothing. He desires without cause, just to desire. And what does he desire? He desires to take a glimmer of himself and inject it into a physical body, dressing it first with another soul, an earthly one very much a part of this ordinary world. And he desires that this body and its earthly impulses will obscure and negate the godly light breathed into it, and that nevertheless, somehow in the midst of all of the struggle, the spark of God within will manage to make its mark, filtering away some of the ugliness and refining some of the preciousness of the body, of the animal driving it, and even of its share of this world. This is the sanctuary that each person makes in his life, a place where an animal is raised up in a godly fire. It is here that God is found in all of his primal essence, dwelling in an ordinary world. And for this, all things were made. So that's very good thought, very cool. So that's a daily thought for today. And then a little bit of information here in the summer solstice, since that is upon us. Here's 5 facts to know about the first day of summer. So it's Break out your swimsuits, fire up the barbecue, and put on the sunglasses because summer is almost here. Saturday, June 21st marks the first official day of summer in the northern hemisphere when the sun reaches its northernmost point in the sky. But did you know that the summer solstice, as it's called, is the longest day of the year? Here are 5 facts to know about the first day of summer. It says, when does the summer solstice begin exactly? In the northern hemisphere, the summer solstice begins at 6:51 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, June 21st. This is according to almanac.com. The date brings the year's longest stretch of daylight. Through the hours of sunlight depend on location. Many hours will see 16 hours worth of light on Saturday. 16 hours worth of light. Why does the solstice occur? The word solstice is the Latin solstium, from sol or sun, and stidium, to stop, because it happens that the sun stops at the solstice. The solstice happens twice annually during the Earth's axis of rotation. Depending on the calendar year, the summer solstice happens annually in December for the southern hemisphere and June 20th or 21st in the northern half of the world. For science aficionados, the summer solstice occurs precisely when the Earth's axial tilt is most inclined towards the sun, at a degree of 25 or 23 degrees 26 minutes, its most extreme. In June, the tilt is towards the sun in the northern hemisphere, while the second yearly solstice, the winter solstice, in December, the tilt is away from the sun in the southern hemisphere. Okay, how is the summer solstice celebrated? Well, the solstice marks the first day of summer in the northern hemisphere, and that means flip-flops, beach trips, and barbecues. In southern England, thousands flock to Stonehenge to see the sun rise from the vantage point of the 4,000-year-old solar monument. The summer solstice is also a celebration for Christians and pagans. In Christianity, the first day of summer marks the festival of St. John the Baptist. In paganism, followers celebrate what they call midsummer with bonfires and feasts. Is it the longest day of the year? The summer solstice has the longest hours of daylight for the northern hemisphere, according to time and date. The sun, which usually rises directly in the east, rises north of east and sets north of west. This means the sun is in the sky for a longer period of time, yielding more daylight. And last, why do the warmest days of summer generally come long after the solstice? Well, according to space.com, it takes a month or two for some of the geographic areas to see their warmest days, simply because it takes the Earth time to warm up. In fact, solstices do not mark the start of winter or summer at all. They are actually the midpoint of each season. Almanac.com calls this phenomenon when the land and the oceans release stored heat back into the atmosphere much later than the first day of summer, the seasonal temperature lag. And there you go. Those are 5 good points about the summer solstice that is now upon us, or shall be within 24 hours. And here's some more over at space.com. It says the Earth will reach one of its 4 major way stations Saturday, June 21st, during its annual trip around the sun. The sun will reach its northernmost point in the sky, known as the summer solstice. Saturday's Earth's closest star will seem to pause briefly before beginning to move southward again in the northern hemisphere. This marks the longest day of the year. Okay, so another good article here. So there you go. We've made it through another season, despite all of the wars and the rumors of wars and all the other craziness in the world. We're still here. And that's something that, you notice there is a lot of craziness in the world. And sometimes I think we take it personal because we think that we're the only ones experiencing this. But then you take a trip down the past and you happen to watch some of the news programs from the 60s and then from the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, and you see that the same problems that are going on now were going on then. And the same panic that was occurring around them then is still being created now. And you start to realize that, well, these are just rumors. These are just an ongoing terror attack. And that when we step out of that, which everyone seems to do as they continue to get more experienced on how to deal with this energy, we seem to move in a different direction. We seem to move past it. And I think that we've come to a point in time where there's been enough people who have experienced for all of the years this repeating history that we're tired of it. We're ready to move on to the next phase, which is good because that's what the energies right now of life are supporting. So if we're moving into that and feeling that, it's just a good confirmation that we are in synchronicity with what life is offering. So good stuff. We're moving on, doing good, and we're going to move on here to UFO news. That's up next.
This is the UFO News with Joshua Poet.
All right. Thank you very much, Dirk. First story here is a sighting that took place in North Kentucky, June 18th, 2014. There you can see we've got the photograph there. I was out with my son and we got this on video. This is the first time I have seen anything like this. Let's take a look and see what we have here. Okay. Alright, we've certainly seen this before, this type of light. This is a good shot, very good shot. And the video itself is 54-second video, and let's look at this other one over here. It's a little more of the same. Alright, so very good shot there. Now let's move on to the next story. This is unknown lights over Rancho Santa Margarita, California, June 18th. There's a couple of our images there. This is new video, bright lights hovering in the sky above Rancho Santa Margarita. This was taken on Wednesday, June 18th. The witness says, I was driving with my girlfriend to her house in RSM. I saw a big glowing light over a hilltop in the distance ahead of us, brighter than any light possible. We drove around the hill to get a closer look. It seemed to have moved further out in the distance. We pulled over next to the road where we saw 5 other people watching the same thing. As we were standing there, people kept driving up to see the same thing. This seemed to me a little bit of a green light coming from the top of it. It seemed to be saucer-shaped with antenna or something coming off to emit the green light. When we pulled up, a second one appeared a little higher just to the left of it. The UFOs were glowing extremely bright and slowly pulsating in brightness. We watched for about 20 minutes as both would randomly go dark and reappear and pulsate. Decided to give a drive home after we both, no longer visible, got to my house. We looked up to the distance and could see 2 extremely large motherships. Couldn't have been anything else because it was very bright on the side of them. Okay, so here's what they were seeing. You could see they look like part of the same object. Is it? Or is it 2 separate? Yep. Alright, good shot there. 39-second video. Let's move to the next story. Here I just wanted to bring up the National UFO Reporting Center. Take a quick look at the latest sightings we have in June. Here we're only through Friday. And we know Myrtle Beach, out in Greece, Lake Havasu. So if you just want to kind of glance through here, it's a good opportunity really to see some of the different sightings that are being reported. And then they come up here late because they are looked into. So it's not everything that's thrown up here as soon as it comes in. There's some verification that takes place to some degree or another. All right, here's a story about the Men in Black. We've all heard about them. It's from Chris Holly. It says, my brother Jake and I had a very interesting discussion about the Men in Black issue while I visited with him last week. We continued talking late into the night as Jake had a great deal to say on the subject of not only Men in Black, but shadow people and reports of black mist appearing in haunting reports. I will admit that all of these subjects have been neglected by me over the years, and it was good to sit and talk to someone who had spent time reading and researching them in order to develop his own theories on these curious subjects. I suggested that Jake should write something up for me about these topics to publish, not thinking he actually would, and to my delighted surprise, my brother did. Jake's first article is about Men in Black. I'm hopeful, while I take my hiatus from strange and unknown, Jake will send in his thoughts on all things that interest him in the blackness of the unknown. So, he starts off, he says, I have to admit that although having a family is deeply involved in things considered strange and unknown, I really did not keep up with most of the things being talked or written about. There are a few topics anyway, however, that always caught my attention, yet it seemed to be subjects that did seem to get much attention by the public or the media outlets. The Men in Black were always a curious thing to me. At first, when talk of them started to show up in ufology world, I assumed the Men in Black were government agents who were sent to confirm or look for evidence of UFO reports that surfaced. I thought little of it as how the government operates and believed that the men sent out in typical dull clothes and government-issued cars were simply G-men bored with their assignments, doing a quick obligatory stop to make those outrageous reports of UFOs and aliens. The reports I read seemed to play out like an old-time black and white movie of a bunch of bored G-men forced to go where they did not want to go, who would take a quick look around with cigarettes hanging from their lips in a rush to get back to their hideaways to play cards, drink coffee until they were forced out into their dirty old raincoats to run another quick stop at another wacko's house who called in yet another flying saucer sighting. I held this attitude about the Men in Black issue until a few years ago when I finally realized I never asked my sister, who spends hours of her life researching UFOs, aliens, and abductions, what she thought of the Men in Black, or if she ever saw them, or talked to anyone who had. I knew my sister talked to thousands of people over the years who had seen UFOs and aliens, but did not remember her mentioning G-Men in Black to me. Right? So a few years back, while helping Chris with our family holiday get, I finally remembered to ask her. I was astonished by her answer. She said, I do not know anything about them, at all about them. I never saw one, never spoke to anyone who saw one who had to deal with them, and personally do not think they are government or military people if they do exist. Could not believe my sister's answer and questioned her about this, as I was sure someone over the years she had been researching UFOs and aliens would have had contact with the Men in Black somewhere along the way. I asked her about the abduction victims she interviewed, and the victim answer was the same. Not one person ever mentioned the Men in Black visiting or sitting in black vehicles in front of their homes. I was really shocked at this and decided to look a bit more into the information I could find on the Men in Black topic. So there's more to this article. I'm going to leave it to you to find out the rest. And here's one last piece. It's about Kenneth Arnold. It said Kenneth Arnold's aliens in the mirror transcend flying saucer cover-ups. New evidence emerging from the 67th anniversary of the culture-defining flight that would fuel a national media sensation. It also authenticates the pilot's testimony in the absence of any photographic or other instrumental record, or responding to a call from legacy UFO scientists demanding improved methods of witness interrogation. In his evaluation of Project Blue Book as an attempt by the United States Air Force to cover up valid phenomena, astronomer and former U.S. government UFO scientist Dr. J. Alec Hynek cited the absence of any Blue Book improved method of comprehensive witness interrogation. His critique suggests how Dr. Hynek envisioned possible witness testimony rich in additional details being overlooked by investigators intent upon enforcing an official doctrine of ignorance and denial regarding the existence of UFOs. Evidence of such doctrine can be found in the Durant Report from the CIA Robertson Panel of 1953, which recommended a policy of public smear campaigns targeting individuals claiming UFO sightings and extraterrestrial contact. June 24th, 47, private aircraft operator Kenneth Arnold told staff at the Strip at Yakima, Washington, how he saw 9 supersonic UFOs traveling at formation between Mount Rainier and Mount Adams earlier the afternoon. He would participate in a number of subsequent media interviews over a period of 30 years, of which at least there are 3 available online. The new video draws from his June 26, 47 KWRC radio interview, a May 1949 CBS radio special report, along with on-camera statements reportedly offered during the June 24th, 77 First International UFO Congress in Chicago. The video subjects of these recordings of Kenneth Arnold's spoken testimony to lossless digital mirror filtering, whereby portions of the audio reveal apparently intelligible phrases encrypted backwards within his speech. It is matter of public record that this innovative analytic procedure has revealed the signatures of unconscious sleep-talking-like communications, disclosing verifiably factual information characterized by military, forensic, and clinical precision that anticipated details of the Iraq War, identified by the BTK killer, and disclosed Edward Snowden's UFOs. So, sounds pretty interesting, but I'm going to leave that for you. To finish up, the link is available at firstcontactradio.com. Let me jump away to set things up, and we shall continue on.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
All right, let's continue on. So this story is about time. It's up at RT. Scientists work on quantum superclock to reveal mysteries of time itself. Physicists say they believe they're on track to creating a quantum superclock that would revolutionize the way the world retells time. If the clock proves to be a success, then the concept of time, as it's currently understood, could be changed drastically and allow a whole new idea of accuracy to prevail. According to a study published by the researchers this week in Nature's Physics Scholarly Journal, it might soon be possible to harness the power of global quantum network of clocks to allow construction of a real-time single international time scale with unprecedented stability and accuracy. The study, a quantum network of clocks, calls for a quantum cooperative protocol for operating a network of geographically remote optical atomic clocks. Using non-local entangled states, we demonstrate an optimal utilization of global resources and show that such a network can be operated near the fundamental precision limit set by quantum theory, reads an abstract of their report. Furthermore, the internal structure of the network, combined with quantum communication techniques, guarantees security both from internal and external threats. Broken down, the scientist project isn't all that complicated. Alexandra Wheats wrote for the Nature website that essentially the researchers are relying on 2 ideas that are already major points of focus for physicists: atomic clocks as they currently exist, and quantum entanglement, in which pairs of particles become linked in such a way that measuring a property of one of them instantaneously determines the same property for the others. So it's very interesting what they're looking at. Time. One day they'll really explore the Mayan calendar and find out that there's a level of time there that they could learn from as well. I'm sure they already have, but I'm sure they'll dig in deeper at some point. Okay, here's just some images for your viewing pleasure, just to check them out. These are all images of salt caves. Salt caves, where are these? These are in Russia, deep beneath the Russian city. Miles of Technicolor caves share their hidden beauty. Just thought this would be something to check out for the moment. You can go down a lot of really interesting, cool-looking caves. All right. So there you go. Caves. Colorful caves. All right. Now, today, being Friday, I reserved to talk about Jesus. I like talking about Jesus. I'd have to say that it's one of my favorite characters, favorite personalities. I like what he had to say. Like the way that he was open-minded and learned. There's a lot that is out about Jesus we certainly know about in the Bible, and so what I've been bringing here is from the book of Urantia, and there's a whole wealth of information here. This is a page, as you could see, of Jesus, and we have sayings in part 1, all the various sayings on a variety of subjects, and there's a whole section on the miracles, parables, another whole section on sermons, and certainly a lot more information than you get in the Bible. And then we have how Jesus came to be in the story, and the story we know is there. So it's quite a lot of information. So we can go through the whole story at some point, but what I like to just kind of stay on some of his wisdom. Why don't we check out one of Jesus's? Let's look at his sermon here. It says this took place 9 A.D., the Nazareth Temple. Having attained the age of 15, Jesus was qualified to occupy the synagogue pulpit. In the first public pronouncement, Jesus sought to base his forthcoming mission on the teaching of the Old Testament prophets. He foreshadowed his life of teaching and healing rather than that of the expected Jewish Messiah. The Old Testament texts he used are found in Isaiah 61, 1-3, Amos 5, Isaiah 1, Micah 6, Isaiah 40, 41, and 43. It goes on to say, it seems likely that Jesus made comments on these texts, but such possible expositions are not recorded in the narrative. These Old Testament texts forecast his gospel of the kingdom, merciful ministry to the captives of sickness and fear. While Jesus did not preach a social gospel, he did advocate justice for the poor and the oppressed, the widow and the orphan. The first sermon pointed to his later disregard of ceremonial dogmas and sacrificial bondage. This address pointed out that God was a creator father who loved and saved his individual children. Even at this early age, Jesus taught earnestly and sincerely. He was manly, decisive, and authoritative. And let's see. Let's go back and look at something here. I guess it just gives, with the syllabus, just gives us a little synopsis here. Okay, let's go back. Let's look at else. What are we going to look at here? Let's see. Let's look at the parables. It's 29 A.D., the Scythia occasion. This was the first pretentious parable Jesus presented. Jesus was in a boat near the shore meditating. About 1,000 gathered on the shore this Sunday morning. Peter came out of the boat and wanted to preach to the multitude, but Jesus said, "I will tell them a story." About this time, Jesus first began to employ the parable method of teaching the multitudes that so frequently gathered about him. Since Jesus had talked with the apostles and others long into the night, on this Sunday morning, very few of the group were up for breakfast. So he went out to the seaside and sat alone in the boat, the old fishing boat of Andrew and Peter, which was always kept at his disposal, and he meditated on the next move to be made in the world of extending the kingdom. But the master was not to be alone for very long. Very soon the people of Capernaum and the nearby villages began to arrive, and by 10 o'clock that morning almost 1,000 were assembled on a shore near Jesus' boat and were clamoring for attention. Peter was now up and making his way to the boat, said to Jesus, "Master, shall I talk to them?" But Jesus answered, "No, Peter, I will tell them a story." And then Jesus began the recital of the parable of the sower, one of the first of a long series of such parables which he taught the throngs that followed after him. This boat had an elevated seat on which he sat, for it was the custom to sit when teaching, while he talked to the crowd assembled along the shore. After Peter had spoken a few words, Jesus said, "A sower went forth to sow, and it came to pass as he sowed that some of the seed fell by the wayside, to be trodden under foot and devoured by the birds of heaven. Other seed fell upon the rocky places where there was little earth, and immediately it sprang up because there was no depth in the soil. But as soon as the sun shone, it withered, because it had no root whereby to secure moisture. Other seed fell among the thorns, and as the thorns grew up, it was choked, so that it yielded no grain. Still other seed fell upon good ground, and growing yielded some 30-fold, some 60-fold, and some 100-fold. And when he had finished speaking this parable, he said to the multitude, He who has ears to hear, let him hear. The apostles and those who were with him, when they heard Jesus teach the people in this manner, were greatly perplexed. And after much talking among themselves that evening in the Zebedee garden, Matthew said to Jesus, "Master, what is the meaning of the dark sayings in which you present to the multitude? Why do you speak in parables to those who seek truth?" And Jesus answered, "In patience have I instructed you all this time. To you it is given to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. But to the undiscerning multitudes, and to those who seek our destruction, from now on the mysteries of the kingdom shall be presented in parables. And this we will do, so that those who really desire to enter the kingdom may discern the meaning of the teachings, and thus find salvation, while those who listen only to ensnare us may be more confounded, in that they will see without seeing, and hear without hearing. My children, do not perceive the law of the Spirit, which decrees that to him who has shall be given, so that he shall have an abundance, but from him who has not shall be taken away even that which he has. Therefore will I henceforth speak to the people much in parable, to the end that our friends and those who desire to know the truth may find that which they seek, while our enemies and those who love not the truth may hear without understanding. Many of these people follow not in the way of truth." The prophet did indeed describe all such undiscerning souls when he said, "For this people's heart has waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed, lest they should discern the truth and understand it in their hearts." The apostles did not fully comprehend the significance of the Master's words. As Peter and Thomas talked further with Jesus, Peter and the other apostles withdrew to another portion of the garden, whereby they engaged in earnest, prolonged discussion. All right, so we continue. Peter and the group about him came to the conclusion that the parable of the sower was an allegory, that each feature had some hidden meaning, so they decided to go to Jesus and ask for an explanation. Accordingly, Peter approached the Master, saying, "We are not able to penetrate the meaning of this parable, and we desire you to explain it to us, since you say it is given to know the mysteries of the kingdom." And when Jesus heard this, he said to Peter, "My son, I desire to withhold nothing from you, but first suppose you tell me what you have been talking about. What is your interpretation of the parable?" The Master permitted this confusion to pass the point of the most intense expression. Then he clapped his hands and called them about him. When they all gathered around him once more, he said, "Before I tell you about this parable, do any of you have any aught to say?" Following a moment of silence, Thomas spoke up. "Yes, Master, I wish to say a few words. I remember that you once told us to beware of this very thing. You instructed us that when you use illustrations for our preaching, we should employ true stories, not fables, and we should select a story which best suited to the illustration of the one central and vital truth which we wish to teach the people, and that having used this story, we should not attempt to make a spiritual application of all the minor details involved in the telling of the story. I hold that Peter and Nathaniel are both wrong in their attempts to interpret this parable. I admire their ability to do these things, but I am equally sure that all such attempts to make a natural parable yield spiritual analogies in all of its features can only result in confusion and serious misconception of the true purpose of such a parable. That I am right is fully proved by the fact that whereas we were all of one mind an hour ago, we are now divided into separate groups, who hold different opinions concerning this parable, and hold such opinions so earnestly as to interfere, in my opinion, with our ability to fully grasp the great truth which you had in mind when you presented this parable to the multitude, and subsequently asked us to make comment upon it." The words which Thomas spoke had a quieting effect on all of them. He caused them to recall what Jesus had taught them on former occasions. And before Jesus resumed speaking, Andrew arose, saying, "I am persuaded that Thomas is right, and I would like to have him tell us what the meaning he attaches to the parable of the sower." After Jesus had beckoned Thomas to speak, he said, "My brethren, I did not wish to prolong this discussion, but if you so desire, I will say that I think that the parable was spoken to teach us of great truth, and that this is that teaching of the gospel of the kingdom, no matter how faithfully, how efficiently we execute our divine commissions, is going to be attended by various degrees of success, and that all such differences in results are directly due to the conditions inherent in the circumstances of our ministry, conditions over which we have little or no control." When Thomas had finished speaking, the majority of his fellow preachers were about ready to agree with them. Even Peter and Nathaniel were on their way to speak with him when Jesus arose and says, "Well done, Thomas. You have discerned the true meaning of the parables. But both Peter and Nathaniel have done you all equal good, in that they have fully shown the danger of undertaking to make an allegory out of my parables. In your own hearts, you may often profitably engage in such flights of the speculative imagination, but you make a mistake when you seek to offer such conclusion as part of your public teaching." The second night of their sojourn at the Gennesaret, the Master again told the apostles the parable of the sower, and added these words, "You see, my children, the appeal to the human feeling is transitory and utterly disappointing. The elusive appeal to the intellect of man is likewise empty and barren. It is only by making your appeal to the spirit which lives within the human mind that you can hope to achieve lasting success and accomplish these marvelous transformations of human character that are presently shown in the abundant yielding of the genuine fruits of the Spirit in the daily lives of all who are thus delivered from the darkness and the doubt by the birth of the Spirit into the light of faith, the kingdom of heaven." All right, and there's a lot more there about parables and so on, but good lesson, good parable, good parable. You've heard that one in the Bible. This seems to have a little more information. I like to read, and see that there's other information out there that tells the same story, so it really affirms what is there for those who need that sort of affirmation. And because different books tell a little bit more, you get different ideas of the fullness of what was going on, and another chance to really understand what the parables were all about and what the meanings are all about. So, good stuff. All right, here's an article. This is by Michelle Walling over at CosmicStarseeds.com. I thought this one would be a very good one to look into for the weekend. The best cures for ascension symptoms. It says, by now most people have heard of ascension symptoms associated with energy fluctuations and clearing in the body. As more photogenic light is showered upon the planet, our bodies continue to clear out of the old way to make for the new. Clear out the old to make way for the new. Our bodies are morphing and expanding like a butterfly into a cocoon, and the emergence will allow the freedom to spread our wings and fly to places we've only dreamed of. And so this article, it's a good lengthy article here, talks about grounding our energy, which is important, because basically what's going on, this ascension process is a process of change in which we're vibrating at a faster rate. We're ascending our energies. That's the objective of this whole mission, this whole purpose for everyone on the planet. And so as we do, we feel different things. As we go through the seasonal changes, as the planets and the stars move around, we are affected by that. We are energetic bodies that transmit and receive energy from the universe around us. So it makes sense if we just think of an electrical current, how we would deal with that. So we want to ground ourselves. So this article talks about grounding our energy, how we can ground that, some of the different remedies that we have, first of all, some of the symptoms people feel. You know, this flu-like energy. That says chakras expand, the energy within the body begins to break down the toxins and flushes them throughout the blood. Okay, so we feel when it flushes through, we think that there's something wrong when it's just a flushing, a cleansing. It says remedy, let the body do its job of flushing out the harmful toxins. You know, headaches come from that, dizziness, different feelings of this energy moving through you. And they're all just different ways in which you feel it. Okay? And then there's some nice good recipes down here if you're looking for something to help with the whole process of cleansing. Putting some good nutrients into the body. Okay, so it's very important. We're going through a process of change. Just remember, it's all energy. What we're doing is we are learning how to process this energy better. And that's all we're doing. So as a body, how can we process the energy better? That's what these articles are about. That's what all of the information on the Kabbalion and the life and teachings of the masters and these messages that we get from the various sources to the channeled messages, you know, it's all about the same thing. How do we work with our energy? And we can do whatever we want with the energy, from manifesting to things to healing to, you know, just to changing and evolving in our consciousness. It's all about what we want to do. And so that's what we're learning. And it's important to understand in the process of how to work with our energy is when it's going through a transition, it's important that we understand how to help it through that transition. We need to feel our bodies so that we know sometimes we need to rest, sometimes we need to move, sometimes we need to meditate, sometimes we need to ground our energy. There's all different ways, and we need to feel what it is so that we can just keep it moving through us. And as we do that, we're going to feel all right. And we'll know when we're feeling all right because we'll feel in sync with it in a different way than when we're not. All right, here's our channeled message for today from Solusa.
Solusa, Love and Generosity.
June 14, 2014, by Laura, Multidimensional Ocean.
Love is in your heart once again, dear ones. You all look forward to events speeding up and allowing for the full development of the fifth dimension Earth to reach your lives. You are also ready to expand your consciousness and your love to new heights. Dear ones, the journey towards the fifth dimensional Earth is the same as the journey towards your own fifth dimensional self. The direction is within. Go to your inner self, your inner soul, your sacred space inside your body, and connect with the energies that live and animate it. There is a life force living within all of you. This life force has an immense power, and should you be able to connect with it, your journey towards the fifth dimension possibilities will accelerate your own journey and the planet's. With your powers of evolution and consciousness, divine right and will is bound to manifest in your daily life and creations. Bear no fear in your heart concerning the timing of the fifth dimension Earth to be permanent, for the transition phase can last for quite some time. Please have no expectations on yourself and on others regarding this issue. The divine clock knows no deadlines in many ways. It is Mother Earth that will decide of her own good timing, when she thinks that she is ready. Nothing can influence her decision. Not your own desires for it, no selfish needs, no ego, not even the cabal can interfere with her good timing. She is the one who knows best. Many of you await for her to transition permanently in the fifth dimension. Understand this, dear ones, the timing in her life is on a very different scale than the timing on your own life. Her life is much longer than any human life. A few thousands of years to her would be the equivalent of a few seconds in a human life. In fact, on the Earth clock, a few thousand years would not even be noticeable. So please consider the fact that the Earth has no agenda for rushing into ascension if she is not ready for it, as it would lead to disaster. She cannot be pressurized into this no matter how much you desire for it to happen. We know of the huge imbalance among humans in matters of consciousness and love. We know that many of you feel very ready to ascend permanently. Dear ones, you were sent to Earth to show the way, to spread the love vibrations and the consciousness. Many of you are getting so impatient to see the job done, as it were, that you forget why you are on Earth in the first place. If you feel impatient and fed up of waiting around, this is a sign that there is something that you are not doing right quite correctly. It is a sign of imbalance. Watch out for it. Watch out for giving up living in the third dimension world, in order to isolate yourself into your own self-induced fifth dimension world. Dear ones, make the most of your time on Earth. Do remember that the human life is very short, therefore you have to keep coming back through the process of reincarnation in order to grow and to learn as much as other civilizations do. The cabal is constantly closing its fist in order to assume a more and more controlling position over you. They are like running water, it is impossible to keep contained all the time. They are very resourceful and are very feared by many on your world. Fear is their governing body, as well as obedience, oppression. They rely much on denunciation as well. Keep your heart open at all times, and aim for the sky. Do not put a limit on your dreams, do not put a limit on your happiness. Keep working on your spiritual work, keep faith and trust in the forces of good, the forces of Creator. I am Salusa from Sirius, sending you much love on this day. The Earth will continue her journey, make sure that you make your journey a happy one. Not one of expectations, not one that the cabal can use to make you dear, and hate the waiting for ascension phase. Instead of waiting passively for it all to happen, please take responsibility for Earth's ascension, take part in it, rather than criticizing the fact that no progress is evident. Take ownership for your own ascension, and this will propel others to do the same.
Thank you, Salusa.
Alright, that's a good message, very good reminder, with everything that's going on. We need to make sure that, we stay focused on the goodness that we want to bring into the world. Not only staying focused on it, but also not getting caught up in all of the other as well. Sometimes we can get so focused that we lose sight of why we're doing something because we get too intense. We need to learn to play with life a bit more, because this is life. It's happening right now. The shift, dimensional shift, it's happening right now. The Earth is going through its changes. So if we're waiting for something to happen, we're just going to keep waiting and waiting and waiting. When we realize that what we need or what we want to have happen is actually in the midst of happening, then we participate in it differently. And every day, every opportunity is a chance to work with these energies. And so, as we go around and we go forth, and this weekend, there's a lot of energy out there. New shift. Think about the positivity you want in the world, There's all the wars and the rumors of wars and all the negativities. That's what we want to get away from. So just let that go. Just let that go and just focus on the positivity. And imagine that taking over what's going on in the world. So let's just close your eyes, take a deep breath, and exhale. Take a deep breath again, Exhale. And feel this breath in and out like waves on the ocean. And imagine these waves back and forth. And as you think of these waves, just understand them as energy. And as you think of this energy, just fill this energy. Think of this energy as love moving back and forth. And as this waves of love move back and forth, let's just imagine this ocean, this water of waves moving across the earth. And as it does, it washes over all of the areas that are filled with darkness, as well as the areas which are filled with light. And it cleanses all things brightly. And it washes away all of the darkness and refreshes all the light. So everything is shining bright. And we just imagine that all of the darkness and the worries and the fears and the doubts and the fearmongers and the rumors and the wars all drift away, fade away. They're part of an ancient memory. And we think about those things momentarily and we realize they are lessons we needed to learn. And understand that we have learned those lessons and now we move forward. And so we move forward into a future that is filled with light, filled with love, on a planet Earth that is filled with millions and billions of peaceful, loving people, all working together to make the world a better place each and every day. And as we move forward, we find that our leadership and the ways in which we lead each other changes. And we see to it that the best and the brightest of who we are take positions that help to teach, and that the goodness we've always hoped for from life really shines and expresses itself. So let's imagine all of these good things going on as we move forward into this next cycle. Let's imagine as this summer solstice moves into position now, that all of our intentions of goodness move into place. And we understand that now is the time for us to step forward, to step into that which exists around us at this moment. Think of these words, contemplate this affirmation. I am courageous and I stand up for myself. I am courageous and I stand up for myself. And as you contemplate that, you understand that standing up for yourself is honoring who you are and fully knowing who you are. And the courage comes from the knowing that you have the strength to let go of who you are not in order to be who you are. And so as we let go of all of the illusions around us to find the true heart of who we are, as we take a good look in that mirror of life and see the reality of who we are strengthened because we find ourselves standing on solid ground. So imagine yourself standing on the earth, solid upon the earth, balanced, focused, strengthened, completely in your own place, own skin, knowing who you are. And imagine each and every individual on the planet feeling that way. and each and every individual interacting with everyone else in a kind, thoughtful, loving manner. And just think of peace and harmony and good vibes, and just imagine these waves one more time, these waves of good vibes just washing over the planet and filling it with more and more good vibes, positivity. And imagine that, and take another deep breath. Exhale. And as you exhale, just imagine your subconscious mind continue on this journey, surfing these waves of positivity. Take another deep breath. Exhale. And let's bring our conscious mind back to the present moment on the count of 3. 3, coming back to the present moment filled with confidence. 2, coming back to the present moment filled with faith. And 1, coming back to the present moment happy, healthy, and whole. Happy, healthy, and whole. Take another deep breath. Exhale. And open your eyes. That's it, my friends. That's the show for another week. Thank you very much for being here. So, summer solstice is here. Go out, enjoy yourself, have fun, just balance your energy, get in sync with all the changes that are going on, because there's a lot. I'll be back Monday. Till then, have an awesome time. Love ya. Peace. I'm out of here.